Take a trip with us to Nilbog. Just promise not to drink the goo.
Oh my God!
If you get sucked into the Matrix, we will send a phone for you.
Do you believe in fate?
But every movie has a plot hole, and every hole gets filled somehow. Whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club of two. We're the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Plotaholics podcast. I'm Shane Wilson, and I'm joined, as always, by a whining bitch of a dog, Ivy, as well as my partner in crime, Brian Tan.
Heyo,
Brian,
coffee's up.
Welcome. How are you today, sir?
Not too shiggity shabby. Had a nice little trip back to the early '90s of my pre/in-pubescence this week. So woohoo to that. It was
cool,
fun.
Man.
Good job. Good fun.
Yeah, the film of the week is The Mighty Ducks.
Yeah,
1992.
Not the animated cartoon, but the actual movie starring the not tiger blood infused Esteves brother.
Would you like to slice the people off with a little synopsis of this film, The Mighty Ducks, aka Necessary Roughness for Children?
Yeah, sure. Necessary Roughness for Kids on Ice. Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So, Gordon Bombay, completely soured and bitter after a horrible, horrible hockey experience, has become an asshole lawyer who does everything he can to be the best. Until he decides, hey, let's celebrate a shady win in court by drinking and driving, like we tend to do. And then he's forced to face what he hates the most. Not just himself, not just kids, but hockey. And then he might just become a better person. It's The Mighty Ducks, a Disney film.
I miss the days before political correctness took over and ruined everything. Days when we could drink and drive in kids' movies. Days when we could tell kids to shut the hell up, tell them they were bastards, all under the freaking arch of the Disney logo. And, I blame, obviously, the liberals, but...
what about the werewolves? Are the werewolves at fault too?
Well,
or is
Brian,
liberal another word for werewolf?
Brian, I think that, first of all, I don't appreciate your tone because I think that you're trying to belittle the werewolf threat. And I know, as well as our audience knows, that the werewolf threat is real.
Ow.
And,
and one day, now I have coffee coming out of my nose and it hurts.
And now, one day, Brian, you will awaken to the threat. And I only hope that it isn't too late.
Oh no, liberal werewolves. We got to be careful.
But werewolves can be liberal or conservative, Brian. They're people.
Okay. Which was what I was trying to argue last week.
At least half of the time.
Well, I don't know if it's half the time. If you look at it at a winter solstice, it's less than half. Well,
you can cherry pick your rules, right? If you want to go with the Teen Wolf brand of werewolf, then they can be werewolves all the time, or none of the time.
Or none of the time. Well, we'll see. Here's the thing that I look at it though. I don't think that there's a werewolf conspiracy in this film because there's ducks. Ducks are prey animals.
Yeah,
I don't see werewolves being very, very good bird dogs.
No. There are no werewolves in this movie. I said there were werewolf sympathizers.
Oh, okay. So who's your first werewolf sympathizer in this movie?
It's freaking Gordon Bombay. Also, stupid name, but it's Emilio Esteves.
I like that you're. I like the fact that you think his name is stupid. Is it because his name is stupid? Is that why he's a werewolf sympathizer?
No, no,
All right,
Emilio
so
Esteves is not a stupid name.
okay, but Gordon Bombay is. So
Yeah, but
what?
that
What
has
about?
nothing to do with why he's
All right, so I want a simple yes or no for you. I'm going to give out the names of the characters of the film as best I can, and then I want a yes or no. If yes, they're a werewolf sympathizer, or no, they're not a werewolf sympathizer. Okay,
I mean,
Coach.
it starts and stops with Emilio Estevez.
Yeah, but I mean, he's got to have
He's
minions to
he's
help
the
him.
guy. He's the guy.
He is the
He's the
leader.
mole. He's the mole. Like he's infiltrated. The werewolves have sent out a regular person to infiltrate other movie sets,
Oh, okay.
and to spread their propaganda without the risk of a full moon surprising them and scaring everyone.
Oh, okay. All right. So he's the one. No one else. Just
Yeah,
him.
he's the one, and he was recruited to the cause by his brother Joe Estevez,
Oh,
the lesser of the Estevezes. But
oh.
and that's probably how the werewolves like feasted on him, right? He was impressionable. His other siblings were obviously much more successful than him, and then he was romanticized into the cult, seduced by the werewolves. Because they offered him a role in a film that is very pro werewolf because it features a werewolf love story, and that's Joe Estevez, aka Werewolf, and his brother
Okay.
Emilio, aka Get them while they're young, werewolf sympathizer,
Well,
and
then
fellow
that's what. Well,
Pacers.
then that's why he's a hockey coach. Then because it allows him to sort of come in there and get these kids and start to breed them into get them into the
Yeah,
werewolf
oh, for sure. Yeah,
machine.
you've got to get them young. That's why werewolf sympathizers are usually sent to the sets of children's films. So, Brian, you watched this movie when you were a kid, as did
Hmm.
I. And
Yep.
by this movie, I mean, of course, The Mighty Ducks.
Yeah.
Uh,
Not
the
werewolf, not the Howling, but the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, the you loved it, I assume.
As a kid, I did mainly
Mm,
because I liked
you
the
were a
fact.
kid.
Well, yeah, I was a kid, but I also liked the fact that we had two black kids on the team.
Mm,
We had Brandon
Juicy.
Jussie, Jussie
Oh,
Smollett,
Jussie Smollett.
and Brandon Adams. Now, Brandon Adams got big because he was a child actor who was also a singer, and he was sort of a Michael Jackson kind of kid too. Like he was in Moonwalker. He, could sing very, very well. He sort of did like a lot of what Alfonso Ribeiro did in the early '80s. He would dance like Michael and blah blah blah.
Hmm.
That's what Brandon Adams did.
Gotcha.
So, but Brandon Adams was also in a film a year prior to this called The People Under the Stairs, which is such an underappreciated thriller.
Mm,
Um, but it was good to see black kids in a hockey movie because once again, representation matters, right?
right.
And not only do you have two black kids on the team, but the older brother is actually the captain of the team.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's the tough guy. He's the mouthpiece. He's the guy that all the other kids listen to, and he's the better player up
Yeah.
until So it was kind of cool. Jussie Smollett was just kind of there. He was
Right.
just kind of there.
I appreciated the representation in the film as well. I thought that it was in a way kind of ahead of its time in that way,
In a lot of ways, yeah, because you
but
didn't see
then
movies like that a lot.
right, and then how did we feel about the Oreo joke?
That made me roll my eyes because it's like, and here we go with the casual racism. That
It was pretty casual, and it was pretty racist, and it did come up 3 times?
Yeah, I mean,
I
but
feel like 3.
can I share something with you?
Yeah, please.
When I play any of the NHL games, the
Mhm,
EA NHL games, I always play a black character. I always play on the defense.
mhm,
And every now and again when I'm playing the games, I have little backstories in my head like I used to do when I was a kid.
mhm,
And there was always dealing with casual racism because that's
right,
what you run into. I think in any sport that you play, if you're a person of color, you're going to run into the racism that of other people, and it's the racism that kids pick up from their parents,
mhm,
and they do it to try to get in your head.
Right,
They figure
yeah.
they're gonna get you off of your game by being racist. And I think that in that time, in that age frame, it's not so much trying to be like hateful. It's
Right.
literally trying to get it's like, I know this is gonna upset you. I don't understand why it upsets you so bad, but I'm gonna upset you to throw you off your game.
Yeah. It is, I
And
think, problematic, though, that it's in a children's film and it's said by children, right? Because that to me sets a pretty negative precedent for the other kids that are watching this movie.
yeah, see, I kind of because here's the thing. A kid sees this, like, a white kid sees this happen in a movie, and then they go out on the playground
They
and go,
feel like
"Oh,
that's the green light, right? That
right." And
like
now they go out on the playground and they say it to the wrong black kid, and then they get their ass kicked, and they're like,
right. And
"Why?"
the 90s were kind of notorious for this kind of stuff. And it wasn't always along racial lines. Sometimes it was along class lines, right? Like they would make fun of
Sexual
their
lines.
classmates because they were poor or because they didn't
Mhm.
have the right clothes or whatever.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah. And I went through that a lot too. I mean,
yeah,
it's
and
it's really just. I think
because
that.
kids learn how to interact with each other and with the world by watching media, right? I mean, they learn it from their parents too, but they also learn it from watching people that look like them do it on
Behave.
TV, right?
Right. And they just make it okay,
And when
and
things are played for laughs, then they think that that's just a joke, right? And that's just a harmless little joke, and we can just say that wherever.
well, they also, I think, though, the one thing though is that they did a pretty good job in the characterization to make it like the Hawks are just bad kids. They're just not
Hmm.
nice kids. So I
Yeah,
think the point though is that they're bringing it via the
the
villains.
villain. Yeah, and that
So
does
that
help.
so it kind of tells the kids only bad guys say this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And in some ways though, as much as it sort of made me roll my eyes, at the same token, I appreciate it because that's stuff that would get said in during competition. That's what they would say. They would try to
yeah.
get into the kids' heads. They would try to do it because look, no kid is born racist. They learn racist behavior from their parents.
Yeah, and I think that this kind of moment in a film can provide parents with a very good opportunity to have these very important conversations with their children. It's just that you just can't count on parents to do that.
Right. Some parents will either well, I don't see what the problem of it is because
Right.
there's a black kid on one side, black kid on the other side. That's kind of funny. Or why do you got to make a big deal about everything? It was just a stupid joke. So basically, so the film opens up with we see Gordon basically choking during the big game, which he was a kid. It happens. He shouldn't even been in a high stress situation. Plus, shouldn't have been on like he explains later on in the movie he missed the penalty shot and then his team lost in overtime. So why isn't the coach going after the team? Like,
Yeah.
why you guys couldn't have brought it home in overtime? Like, you're that crappy of a team that you can't pull it out in overtime. You needed that one penalty shot from a kid who's
Also,
been killing himself all game. For
this
real.
kid doesn't even look like he belongs on this team.
He's
Everybody
so
on this
young
team,
looking.
yeah, it looks like he killed the man that's supposed to be wearing that jersey because it swallows him up.
And his
And
dad had just died.
yeah, and he's on a team with literal giants, and this old dude is just yelling at him. This old dude who is already old at this point in the movie, and then 20 years later is exactly as old as he was. Like,
And this is the second time we've had a Lane Smith film here on the Plotaholics. First time, this is the dad. This is the same dad from Son-in-Law.
mm,
So he's real good at being an asshole.
yeah, for sure.
He was that quintessential white guy villain of this
Mhm.
time
Oh,
frame.
yeah, yeah, I mean, he has that look, he's pretty interchangeable, with
Wait, have we done My Cousin Vinny?
no.
Okay, good. Because he was also in My Cousin Vinny, which is probably one of the best films of all time.
But yeah, so little Gordy
Little Gordon Bombay.
chokes gives us a little choke show there at the beginning, and then he carries it with him for the rest of his life. But he sort of internalizes this very sort of Cobra Kai sort of mentality, right? Of
Yeah, he
like
does about
win
yeah.
big.
Yeah, win big or don't win at all. Don't just
Yeah,
win big or it's not worth doing. And
right.
he takes it in the law and he is real like he is like the smart he is that smarmy ass defense attorney
Yeah.
that like you just want to strangle when
Yeah,
you
and
see
but
him.
when his boss gets onto him for quote unquote spiking the ball, right? Like in this case that he wins, I'm like, there's not a lawyer on this planet that is gonna berate this dude for winning.
No, not at all.
Especially not this guy who turns out to be pretty shady before it's all over with anyway.
Right. Like there's no way he's gonna be that much of a douche about it. Like he's gonna be like and that really made me feel like, when you talk about movies lying to us,
Yeah.
because the boss is really trying to act like he's this high moral authority, and he's not.
Yeah. Yeah,
He's
there
really
were
not.
there were some inconsistencies here in characterization. Uh
Yeah.
with him, especially. It was like they needed him to be a villain, and they didn't realize that until the end. They were like, "Oh shit! Like, what? How are we going to tie this whole thing up?" Right?
Right.
And
That's
another
exactly what it was too.
even the plot point with the kid that was playing on the wrong team, like that
Oh,
whole
the Adam
plot
Banks.
point.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was weird. That was really well. That was the product of the times too. Like they had to throw like they always threw little stuff like that in. Like they just had to.
So while I was watching it, I thought that okay, so if he continues to play, they have to forfeit all their games, right?
Yeah.
But my thought is they should have to forfeit all of them anyway because he's been
Right.
playing all season, and
On the
there's not a
wrong freaking
world
team.
in which they didn't know at the beginning of the season that that kid was in a different district.
Right. Like, and then of course they come up with this whole, well, you'll just play through it out and then they'll redraw the lines. It's like, how is that a compromise?
Yeah, right.
That's it's just not. That's just bull crap.
Yeah, and just, either the league completely dropped the puck on trying to tell everybody like that they had drawn new lines, right? Um
I like
and
what
to
you
the
did there.
point where thank you. To the point where like the dad didn't legitimately didn't know, but none of them acted like people that had just found out, right? They all acted
Right.
like they already knew.
Yeah, and it's like they're just more mad that it came to light and that he was doing because I think a lot of it was like nobody really cared because I think didn't it sort of make you feel like these kids, the District 5 was just like a brand new team. So it's basically the Bad News Bears on ice.
Yeah, I was actually curious about that because they did have a previous coach. Uh
All he did was yell a lot and then he hurt his arm. What do you mean? Ah, you little
right.
oh, great heart attack.
So I
That
don't
was
like
hilarious. That was hilarious to
so
me.
I was curious about whether or not that they were a they are District 5, but how long they had really been around. And obviously the first coach didn't do much with them, if that was the first coach. Um, they were
Right.
just kind of a ragtag. And also, why are they even there? Right? Like, why are they even on this team if there's not an actual coaching, like a coach in place? Who did their
Right.
parents give money to?
Well, I don't think coaches get paid. I don't think
Right. No,
new
but they
coaches
have to
get paid.
pay the league, right? To be,
Oh,
you know what I mean?
I think the parents just kind of I think what they did is that the parents paid the league dues. They all came together and paid the league dues. And I think the Hall brothers, I think their dad was just sort of like there keeping an eye on things. You know what I mean? Because you
Yeah.
notice he was at, him and Charlie's mom are at like every game
Yeah. They're the only two parents in the
that are
movie.
actually involved.
Yeah. And so
Oh
yeah, you're
man.
probably right. He's probably the guy that's because he was also real quick to snatch his kids out whenever
Right.
things were looking shady. So
Right. And he's like, I gave up all of my overtime hours for this to watch my kids take dives.
I mean, maybe he just funded the whole thing, you know?
Maybe because I'd
Maybe
be
he
mad
was
as
like,
I'd be
"I
mad
need
as
somewhere
hell
to
too.
send these kids after school. I need them to get tuckered out before they come home."
Yeah, I'm working way too damn hard, man. These kids got to start playing hockey or something. Because damn.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a lot of problems with this movie this time around, and I'd liked it when I was
Okay, well, what
so
are some of your problems? Give me
okay,
a
so I mean,
list.
like, so first of all, there's the redistricting thing, which seems to come out of
Yeah, that was
nowhere,
annoying.
that
That was annoying.
that was not very well popularized by the league, or they just all ignored it or whatever, right?
It just
And
wasn't.
it also felt like an unnecessary plot point.
Mhm.
Um, I
That was
didn't
that was just throwing in a little bit of contention. That's so we could have that classic misunderstanding sort of issue.
Yeah, I get it, but it also is a little bit like the movie saying, "Hey, we know these kids aren't good enough, so we're gonna throw them a bone," right? Like they're good enough to squeak into the playoffs, but they're never gonna win this thing without a kid from a better team.
Right.
It's almost like the little league version of a trade, right?
Pretty
Uh,
much, yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
and and so it just felt to me like they become less of an underdog when that kid's on the team, and it kind of taints the experience of pulling for a bunch of scrubs, because now you're pulling for a bunch of scrubs and then two guys that like that's got like the strongest fucking slap shot I've ever seen, and
Yeah.
then this other kid who's actually a really technically proficient
Well,
hockey
and
player.
what's crazy, and I brought this up before, that I feel so bad for Eldon Henson who plays Fulton Reed because
Mhm.
as a kid he's this giant monster and then he doesn't grow anymore. So he's just a dude. Like he's
Well,
not even like a imposing dude. Like he goes, how do you go from being like the chief enforcer of a youth hockey team with a slap shot that breaks glass to Foggy Nelson?
yeah, well, and speaking of Mr. Reed, I had issues also with the idea that he would hit a slap shot and
105.
no one with the playoffs on the line and not a single person would try to stop it.
Yeah. Like that just goes to show that yeah, he's good on the pee-wee level because if you're playing on a higher level, kids ain't got a little kid ain't going to take they're not going to block a slap shot with their bodies. They're not going to do a body block. They're just not. But when you start getting into those higher levels, cats are giving up their bodies and they're like, "Hey man, that's what these
See,
pads are
I
here
feel
for."
like somebody would have
Not
at
at
least
this
tried to
level.
do something. I
Not
mean,
at this
swing
level.
at it or something, anything, because there was much
Do a
made
poke
early in
check.
the film about them training the goalie to demonstrating to the goalie that his pads are protecting him, right? You have to
Yeah.
assume that these other kids through their practices with their respective teams have been hit by pucks and understand that there's no real danger there.
I mean, yeah, plus I think I
Also, the first time that kid comes out and hits a slap shot, every coach in that league is starting to prep his kids for that.
yeah, and as soon as he's on the ice, just get on him and
Yeah.
start practicing that poke check.
Yeah, don't give him any space, right? I mean, there would be they could get away with something like that in the first week, right? But after that,
After that
everybody's
first
going to be
game,
ready
it's
for him
over. Yeah, after
because
that first game, it's over.
he's not mobile necessarily.
No,
Like he
he
just
can't skate. He cannot skate for crap. Yeah. Now, granted, in the second movie, he's a better skater.
yeah,
Like in the
well,
second movie, he's in the second and third movie, he's a more complete player.
yeah.
But no,
I tend to I think that I enjoyed Mighty Ducks 2 more, but I
Mighty Ducks
didn't
2
rewatch
is a
it.
better movie. Mighty Ducks 2 and even Mighty Ducks 3, those are some good movies. This
Yeah.
first one is a little bit
It's
like
shaky.
it has its moments. I think what really makes this movie work is and it's actually Emilio Esteves and the kids who go from this movie to the second movie and later the
Mhm.
third movie. Brandon Adams, who played Jesse Hall, Joshua Jackson, who plays Charlie Conway, Sean Weiss, who plays Greg Goldberg. Shout out to Sean Weiss, who's 2 years sober because he had some real issues with substance abuse. I saw a lot of his stuff, and he didn't even look recognizable. Now he's sober, so thank God for that. So, Matt Doherty, who plays Averman, who they changed his first name for the second, third movies. This movie, his name is like John Averman or something, but it's actually Lester. And was it Fulton, Guy, and Marguerite Moreau, who plays Connie, who I had a huge crush on her at this
Yeah.
age. I had the hugest crush on Marguerite Moreau as a kid. And I'm trying to think who else. Yeah, so I think that what makes this movie so great is the relationship between Emilio Esteves and the kid leads,
Right.
the ones that make it to the second and later third movie,
Mhm.
because they're just so likable.
Yeah, they are for sure.
They're very likable, and in a lot of ways take away the
Emilio Estevez, though, not very likable in this movie.
not until he stops being like a dick.
Yeah.
Like once he starts becoming, I think he like once he stops being the slimy guy. But you don't ever want to hate Emilio Estevez. I don't think he's ever done a movie where he's like a hateable guy.
Well, so I'm reminded a little bit of Bad News Bears, right? Where he's obviously he's not that kind of bad coach, right? But he is a bad coach. He
He
spends
is
the
a
first half
horrible
of the
coach.
movie getting them to cheat and getting them to flop and getting, and it just there. I don't know that his redemption arc is necessarily earned. I don't know that you can get a free pass for some shitty behavior because you took some kids to the playoff in a league where everyone but the last two teams gets to go.
Yeah, that's absolutely hilarious to me. The last two teams don't go.
Yeah, he's like, well, if y'all make the playoffs, you might, you'll be all right. And he goes, is there a chance? He's like, well, yeah, everybody gets to go except the last two teams. I'm like, oh shit, man.
Talk
Like,
about participation award trophy.
how can I even be excited about this team when, like, well, of course they don't even have to beat one of those teams because they had to forfeit the season because they all got the flu or something.
Right. Like that's hilarious. And
They have
and
to
that's
beat
literally
one team.
right. And that's literally like in the Bad News Bears when it's like he was like, I got a goddamn little Jesus freak in Sacramento, and I've got one kid that has the mumps and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, you're forfeiting. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
come on.
Well, and then I'm supposed to think that this team that squeezed out a win against the other worst team in the league is now going to like roll through the playoffs and win the whole thing. Get out of here.
Right. Yeah, that was a little bit.
No, they're going to bring Adam Banks down. That kid is not going to bring them up. Not that much.
Yeah, Adam, like that's a lot. I mean, granted, he was able to coach these kids and he was able to, like the song said, accentuate the positives and sort of and teach them the basics. And I always yell about basics. Your basics will set you free.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I stopped watching MMA, because I'd see these guys going out there and no one is really practicing a lot of basics.
Right.
And I'm getting so mad, like, oh, I don't understand why he lost. Because he gave up on a basic jab that would open up. He's just throwing Superman punches and like, come on now. So him teaching the kids how to actually play and accentuating what they can do. Then you bring in an Adam Banks who's like super polished, and he is still. And the one thing that I really like about this trilogy of films is the consistency, because Adam Banks in the second film and into the third film, he is still listed and treated as the best player on the team. Like he's the best natural athlete on the team, which really, really, really works for me. And so I really think that
I see. So I think that Adam Banks coming over to the Ducks. So I think that this film would have been a better film had they lost the championship game to an Adam Banks led squad. Right? He does not, and I think that him.
Yeah, they knock him out early. They knock him out early.
Well, I think that if he joined the Ducks in the second film,
that would have been something a little bit.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, because in this movie, like, then they do the redistricting in between the first and the second film, right?
Right.
And then, like, so now
you should have been with us the whole time. Wow, now we're a good team.
Yeah, so they do well. They make the playoffs in the first movie because everybody makes the playoffs unless you're dead. And then they do okay in the playoffs because they've got sound fundamentals, right? But they still don't have the killer instinct. And so they lose in the championship. And then but they're still happy about it because
Right.
they improved so much, right? That's a
Right.
bad news bears sort of moment, a sort of ending, because it's not realistic that they win, although that's the Disney of it all, right? Had Warner Brothers
Right.
made it, it would have gone the other way.
Probably,
Um,
but I think, and but the thing is though, is that the only problem with that is if they lose, then you don't get a part two, because the only reason why Gordon Bombay is the coach of Team USA is because he took this ragtag District 5, turned them into the Mighty Ducks, and led them to a victory. That's the only reason.
well, I mean, no, I think that you just have a different second movie.
Yeah, but I mean, but then you don't get the characters from the second movie, because
I mean,
you're
you
not
just
gonna
get them later. Like I'm not saying that that storyline can't happen, right? It's just
so you think then
I
like
don't
maybe
know.
the
I
first.
think that this is also a very 90s thing to do, right? Where like your first movie is like, we're gonna go to regionals, right? And then the second movie is we're going to play everyone on the planet Earth. And then like the third movie is it's time to take over the galaxy, lace up your laser socks. It's like always going up up a notch, right? Like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1. Yeah, we're saving New York from Shredder. Oh, is it Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2? I hope you're ready for Super Shredder. Oh, is it Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3? It's time to go back in time. It's like like there's
That's
always
hilarious. That's
like a
hilarious.
dialing it up every time, and I think that movies sometimes, especially a movie like this, just feels so good when it's kept localized. Like
Yeah, that's
let
true.
the big finale, and I know that the
I
finale
think
of
that's why the third movie is so fun, is because it's still relative. Well, it's you're in a different world, but it's still local because they're
yeah.
at home. Although, here's my thing: you go from playing pee wee hockey. So let's just say we do it your way. So they
Oh,
lose this one.
I've got a new way. It's better.
Okay, what's your way?
So the other coach gets to coach Team USA, right?
All right,
Because he won. And then Emilio Esteves, aka
Gordon Bombay,
Gordobo,
Gordobo, Gor-Bo.
Gor-Bo, Gor-Bo is the like alternate coach, right?
Okay, or an assistant.
Because he came
They,
in
they
second,
yeah,
or
they
his assistant.
yeah, they
But
have to
then
patch
that
up their
dude,
differences.
but then that dude dies because he's old as shit. And then Coach Gor-Bo, gets to go to Team USA, and then this sounds like a drunk review. I'm like explaining it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then
But
Gor-Bo
that's a way
goes
that
in
you
the
can.
room.
That's a way for you to have your cake and eat it too, right?
I like that.
Is
Now let me add a caveat to that. So
It also assumes that the only people that they're recruiting to coach Team
are
USA come
just
from the
in
same
Minnesota,
town. Yeah, right.
right? So how about this? So in this game, in this first movie, they lose, right?
Yeah,
They do the redistricting, they do the whole thing. Adam Banks still ends up being on the Ducks. The
yeah,
Ducks come back the next season and they just dominate.
yeah.
And then as soon as that season is over, and we'll say that's in like the first 10, 15 minutes of the movie, right? Now
Yeah.
it's like, hey, we want you guys to be on Team USA.
Yeah, I like that. I like there's like newspaper headlines right over the opening credits, right? Redistricting, and then
Yeah,
Adam Banks is now a duck, and blah blah
right.
blah, right? And then
Why
you
are
have
they
this
why
montage of them just like stomping out these teams.
Yeah, and like Fulton's like giving the clothesline from hell to the kid from the Hawks that like hurt Adam in the first place. Like
Yeah,
he just skates up and just rah
they're
and
like
kick.
beating these teams like 27-3. Like
Right.
it's just like
It's just looking like a football score every
right.
single game. And then
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, we need you to coach Team USA. And but we're going to kick off these other scrubs, like this little loser in the leather jacket. It's not even real leather. It's the cheapest pleather ever. Kick him off the team. And those figure skaters, get rid of them, get rid of those little gingers because they don't have souls anyway. And
hey,
the younger Hall brother, get
spoken
rid of
like a
him.
true werewolf empathizer, sympathizer.
Get rid of Jesse Hall's little brother because you know what? He's a better singer than he is a hockey player anyway. Keep these kids, and then we're gonna bring in this other girl that plays goalie out in Maine, the only other state in the union that's as cold as Minnesota. Because damn,
Hmm.
and we're gonna get this kid from Miami. There's no ice anywhere in Miami, but somehow he's really really good at it. And then some kid from Texas where there's no ice either, but then he'll show up too. And then bam, here's your team.
I'm putting a team together.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, and then we're gonna get that little kid from the "Let's Hear It for the Boy" video, who's now like 6'6", 230, a solid muscle. How anyone thinks he's a teenager, I'll never know. But put him on the team too, and there
yeah,
you go.
and so I do remember thinking that Mighty Ducks 2 was better. Also, didn't they get like way better jerseys?
Dude, their jerseys were like tight, man. Those
Yeah,
those those are
in
the
the
jerseys
sequel.
that the real life the
Yeah,
Anaheim Mighty Ducks wore. Dude, dude, I
they're slick.
seriously, I'm about to go on Amazon and see if I can get myself a D2 Mighty Ducks jersey and just put King Tan on the back.
Nice. Yeah, no, those were killer jerseys. These jerseys were a little doofier,
Yeah,
but
these
they were
jerseys
okay.
scream. Can I ask one question though?
Yeah.
Why the hell is Pee Wee hockey so big in Minnesota that like it gets into the sports section?
Well, okay, so a few things. I don't know, but
If anyone that's
I know.
listening or watching, if you live in Minnesota, is hockey so big up in there in Minnesota that Pee Wee hockey gets in your newspapers?
I will say this. First of all, I apologize for a moment ago when I started talking and it sounded like I knew the answer to your question. I did not.
Yeah,
Uh,
that kind of hurt my
yeah,
feelings.
but as a follow up, here in the South, Pee Wee football makes the front page. Uh,
Seriously?
makes the sports section in small towns, in like smaller, uh, little towns where there's not major sports teams. You know what I mean?
Okay.
They will cover. I mean, it's not like the high school sports teams still make the front page of the sports section, but
Right.
they do cover some Pee Wee stuff in there, or Little League at least. Um, I which yeah, you know, here's some other things that I was thinking about that I had some issues with in the film. If you're still down to hear some complaints,
I'm all about complaints.
I it drove me a little crazy how many grown ass men remembered Emilio Esteves from when he was a kid.
Hey, weren't you Gordon Bombay that
Right.
used to play Pee Wee hockey?
Right.
Yeah,
I
nobody
mean, have
stops
you
me. Hey, aren't you Brian Tan, the kid that fouled out of every grade school basketball game you were ever
right.
in?
Right. Like somebody that hasn't seen you in like 25 years is like, hey, I know you. Like that's
You
not the way
played a
that
sport
works.
once.
Yeah, that and then not only that, but w- the the hometown boy just happens to be playing like professional hockey in the like local franchise, and
Right.
he happens to remember this kid from freaking
This is Gordon Bombay.
Gorbo.
He could really fly, eh?
Yeah,
He
freaking
knows what
Gorbo,
he's
man.
talking about.
Uh, that
Oh
was
my
another thing.
god.
And finally, I think this might be there were
Poor
there's
Basil McRae and
two
Mike
more
Madonna
points.
for
Two
making
more
fun of him so
points.
hard. Okay.
First of all, in Little League, and this may be wrong in hockey, but in Little League sports, the team names are the first thing assigned, right?
Right.
You
Yes.
don't get out of the opening part of the season without a team name. You're not ever just District 5. Like this is not something that your sponsor gets to attribute to you. You do get sponsors, but the team name already exists.
Right. Right.
And not only that, but it felt like they were the only team whose name was dependent on their sponsor. Everyone else already had a team, already had a name. They weren't District 11 or whatever.
Right. Everyone, it's so hilarious. Oh my god, that was bad. Like seriously, like why can't these kids get names? Like why are they
Yeah,
just District 5?
right.
And I mean, I'll tell you the one thing that really gets me though is like, all right, so he's got to do community service. All on board with that. Why would you guys want a guy who's got a DUI rap teaching your kids hockey? Like, why would you want
That's
that? Here's an idea. Why don't you just get a convicted murderer to be your football coach?
yeah.
Like, seriously.
Yeah, I never like so much of it feels contrived, and I guess I mean that's always kind of the point, right? Like of course this plot would never really play out this way in real life, because I doubt anyway, whatever. No, the
Yeah.
other thing that
Most of the time, if you're going to be dealing with kids, you're not allowed to have a criminal record. You're just not.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, this comes up a few times, right? Like in pop culture, because remember when on Always Sunny in Philadelphia, they got community service and they had to coach like kids basketball.
Yeah, so bad. That was so bad.
And then Charlie volunteered to be the referee.
Yeah.
And Frank was running like an illegal gambling ring over the kids. That was a great episode.
I'm seriously gonna start rewatching It's Always Sunny. I started watching Arrested Development
Yeah, you
about a
said that
week
last
ago.
week. Are you
And
enjoying that still?
I am kind of enjoying it. Like I haven't had time to start like watching it again, like getting back to it,
Uh-huh.
but I am enjoying it way more. Although
Yeah, it's so good.
the maybe George Michael that makes me a little uncomfortable, but okay.
Yeah. I mean, they're kids, right? But yeah, but no,
Yeah,
that is also, but that also gets better, right? But
right, right.
I don't want to spoil it for you, but
No, please.
um
But I will say this about but I really think is Pee Wee hockey really that important in Minnesota?
I
Because
mean,
here's the thing.
I think in the northern states, it is a bigger deal because, like in the South, we don't even have hockey in high school, right?
Yeah,
But
because you don't have
but
ice.
right, but in the North, you will have these like more snow-based sports in high school because that's like they're gonna get scholarships to go to college on that, right? And
Right,
so if it's in high school, then it's probably in middle school. And there's the whole ecosystem of like feeding the kids into those sports, just like
right,
it is in football or baseball or whatever.
right. Now football in the South is just as intense as it is up here in the North. Because I remember when I moved to New Hampshire and they showed their high school football players, I just started laughing. And
Yeah.
my ex goes, "What's so funny?" I'm like, "These kids would get eaten alive in Pittsburgh."
Yeah.
Because well, you figure high school football is super big in Pennsylvania, Texas, Florida, and California.
Yeah.
Like that's where it's like super, super
Right.
insanely competitive. But it's competitive everywhere. But those are the main four states.
Hmm.
And I would think with hockey, I would think like Minnesota, Maine, Massachusetts,
Maybe like Michigan.
Michigan, yo, definitely Michigan, and Washington State because you figure you're not too far away from BC, so
Yeah.
it's going to be a big deal there too. It's just,
Yeah, and just like in the South, a lot of times, I mean, there are like rec centers with ball fields and stuff that you would use,
mhm,
but sometimes those kids will play at the middle school gym
mhm,
if they're doing basketball, or at the middle school football field
mhm,
or practice field or something, And so like there will be those sorts of facilities in the North when high schools and middle schools have those teams.
right. Well, I will say this though. The reason why I bring this up is because, dude, the energy of living through kids is just so annoying. Like you hear how Coach Jack Riley is. If you don't win this game, no one's making the team. Blah 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 blah. It's like, dude, seriously, this is Pee Wee hockey. It's one thing to teach your kids about competition
Yeah,
because I think that kids do need to learn that you have to compete. Kids do need to learn that hey, guess what? Nothing is going to be given to you. You do have to take it to another level.
yeah, but the
But
idea that this is the end of the
it's this
line,
important. It is not that important, dude. All
yeah,
you're doing now is teaching kids. Look, man. Once you get some hair on your scrotum, you're just downhill from there. You know, you're going to live on this for forever when you're going to be thinking about this when you're working your shift at Walmart or,
yeah,
when
how
someone
as
comes in
I've
the subway, you're just
yeah,
like, man, I scored the winning goal once. You want some
as
extra
I've
meat?
been watching Cobra Kai.
I love that you go right back to Cobra Kai. I love it.
Well, and it's also so clear to me that Mighty Ducks is Disney is trying to take the Mighty Ducks and turn it into their Cobra Kai
Yeah,
uh,
with yeah. I mean,
with Game Changers.
it's still about the kids. Although, what's kind of hurts is that Emilio Esteves isn't going to be in season 2,
Yeah, I saw that.
which is kind of unfortunate. Oh well.
But no, as I'm watching Cobra Kai, like every time grown men default to karate stance over a disagreement, I just think, wow. I was like, this is so stupid.
Sometimes
And
I
then
want to. I won't lie. There are times when I really, really want to. I just
I
want to
look
like. I just want to get into a karate stance over some with someone. Just be like,
when you and Stephanie do the next season of Cobra Kai, I've got to sit in on it because I have thoughts. And like I looked at Michelle one night and I was like, do adults do they just do karate? Like is that something I'm missing from being an adult?
I
Because like they
do,
just
I do,
I
I
mean,
do. I mean, I'm not.
I
I'm
know, but
not
do
trying
you
to
do
bop somebody.
right? That's what I'm saying, right? Like not do they practice karate, but do they engage in karate fights regularly?
No,
Uh, okay,
no,
that's not
no.
an
We don't.
essential part of adulthood.
No, it is not because
Is it an
here, because
essential part of high school life? Because I also feel like I
yeah,
missed out on that.
yes, because sometimes you gotta protect yourself, man. It's dangerous up in that piece, especially. Well, here's the thing, though. One thing that I hate about karate as a kid is that you practice your kicks and whatnot in the dojo, and then someone starts picking on you in real life, and then you're ready to throw those kicks, and you still get your ass handed to you. It's
Yeah.
like, dude, those kicks ain't gonna work in a practical combat situation. You got to still be able to throw hands.
Well, and like even in on and I know I'm talking Cobra Kai, and I think I'm talking about it as a point of reference because I feel like Mighty Ducks gets it more correct, uh, because it's just like it's more level headed, right?
It really
I mean
is. It really
the
is.
because in Cobra Kai, like to listen to any of those guys that are running the dojos is to think that the most important thing you will ever do is the karate that you're doing today. You know, like uh, it's and not only that, but like it is they're being trained in some cases to murder people. I'm just like it's so dialed
Yeah,
up on that
it's
show. You
so
know what I mean?
it really is dialed up. Cause see, here's the thing though. There's no way in hell that you're gonna be able to just break another kid's arm at the mall and no consequences come
That's what I
about.
keep thinking. I'm like, it's like the police show up and they're like, who
Yeah,
broke
you're
your arm?
going
He's like, she did. And then, or he did, or whatever. And then they're
it's
like,
like,
did
yep,
you
you're
break his
going to
arm?
do.
And he's like, I didn't do it. And the cop's like, good enough for me.
Yeah. Juvie
He
time.
must have
Yeah,
slipped and
because you're
fell.
yeah, it's like you're going to juvie. Matter of fact, in that whole fight where they're like they just take over the food court, dude. I'm sorry, like here in Pittsburgh, if you're a Monroeville Mall and you start having a karate brawl in the food court, Monroeville PD is showing up and all your little asses is going to
Well,
shooting.
right. But
Okay.
also, what about the one where they broke into Daniel's house? Like
Oh,
they
the cops are definitely coming to your crib
like
and
that's
you're getting
Daniel. You
arrested.
know, like
That's
that's Daniel.
Daniel's crib.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
You're
he's got
walking into a
money, he's influential in the community, like, that is not gonna go unpunished.
no, not at all. You're in some serious ass trouble for and then you're just coming in there and you're just breaking stuff and like TVs are getting busted, kids are flying through windows. Like
I
what
just
in
like that
the hell?
when they went to the hearing over whether or not they were gonna have the tournament, and then the other guy walks in and they just immediately hit the stance. I'm like, "Bro, like, you're in public, right? Like, you look stupid, man." Like
Yeah, like honestly, because here's the thing. Speaking as a black belt in the
Yeah,
martial arts, I am not throwing hands unless I have no other choice. Because if I throw hands with any idiot,
yeah.
when I'm in court, they're like, "Well, you're trained to you know that you have specific training that you could seriously hurt somebody." Yes, judge, I know. So why would you just go right to throwing hands? Oh, he insulted my honor. Yeah, guess where your honor's gotten you?
Yeah, right.
3 to 5 years in prison. Have fun fighting for your life there,
It
pal.
is
No, the
so
only way
funny.
that I can throw hands with another human being is if they swing at me first
Mhm.
or if they pull a weapon.
Yeah, for sure.
Otherwise, like if they just come up to me and go, "Hey, you're black and I don't like you for being black." Yeah, I can't throw hands with that guy.
Yeah.
Now, if he shows up and grabs Sharon by the hair and goes, "I'm going to beat her ass." Now I can use it.
Yeah, right, yeah, for sure, but I
But
just it's
I
just
can't
like
just have a simple disagreement with another human being and then go into stances. Like we can't
I
do
think
that.
that I think freaking Daniel should have left that town years ago. Like, it is so crazy to
Yeah.
me that, like, anyway, sorry, not to get off on that,
No, no, it's
like,
fine. It's fine.
but the Cobra Kai stuff came from this other coach, right? Who's sort of instilling that same sort of like kill, kill, kill sort of mindset in
Yeah,
his
I want
team,
you to drop banks like a bad habit. What? Come on, dude. For real? So you're
right?
gonna
Like,
tell
this is
another kid to
freaking
go and
Pee Wee
hurt
hockey.
somebody?
You've been coaching Pee Wee hockey your whole goddamn life, and you ain't done nothing else. Like,
Like, what do
this
you do
is
for a job, my dude?
right. This is what you wanna hang your hat on? Like, you wanna teach a kid how to kill another kid?
How low are you in existence that you're telling kids to hurt other kids over Pee Wee hockey? What is your everyday job? Or do
I
you
mean,
just get
probably
kickbacks?
dogfighting,
Must be, dude, because
or his
damn.
dogfighting ring got shut down probably, so he
Yeah.
turned to kids.
Oh god, that kind of takes me to there's this Billy Blanks movie where like he's teaching this kid how to fight in the martial arts because the school bully is a black belt martial arts, but he fights in some underground fight club ring.
Mhm.
And the guy who runs the fight club ring, he just happened to kill the dude's brother. And and it's like, oh god, when are kids gonna stop being pawns in like these small ass grown up games of I have no penis and I have
Well,
nothing in my
right.
life?
Well, and I also am just kind of over, like, I understand the value of sport competition, right? Like,
Yeah.
I do understand the value of athletics, but the idea that they are so important is just so foreign to me. That, like, that you have to hang so much emphasis on winning or losing is just so crazy. Like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, like the second Mighty Ducks movie to me is a far better film because now it's at least there's a reason that you want to win because this is like the Junior Olympics and blah blah blah. Now, granted,
Mhm.
I still don't think that using kids to fight other kids just say my country is better than yours, but I at least understand why the competition is so high. And the
Yeah,
thing is that the coach in the bad guy coach in the second film, he's being a hockey coach.
yeah,
He's studying the weaknesses and he's teaching his team to exploit
yeah.
those weaknesses. It's not a personal vendetta of destroy, destroy, destroy. It's look, play
Which is a
physical.
way more realistic way of doing
Right.
it, right?
Play physical. That's our game. Even in the third movie, like even the third movie is at least somewhat more realistic because they're not doing this whole, I want you to purposefully hurt this other kid. No, we're bigger than them. We have more experience. So let's use our advantages
Yeah.
to win the game. In this, it's, I want you to drop him like a bad habit. Really, my dude?
Ugh.
Really?
Okay,
And at
John
least
Kreese.
and at least the kids in the Mighty Ducks 3, the seniors, they're playing probably for scholarships, right? Because
Right.
they want to make sure that they
Yeah,
can get the
and now
scholarship
there's
for
something on the line, right?
right. Now, granted, in the third Mighty Ducks film, because in the third Mighty Ducks film, the Ducks get scholarships to go to this prestigious preparatory school. Now, granted, the kids on the varsity team, they're rich kids, so yeah, they're fine. But I mean, they're still being scouted for college.
Right.
And even with them being in the second movie, they're in the junior Goodwill Games. Scouts are watching these kids.
Yeah.
So that is at least a much bigger stake than, oh, this is just a pee-wee hockey. This is pee-wee hockey. Come on.
Yeah, it's just like it's so funny to me. Like when you really think about this, like a sports cycle,
Mhm.
the idea that you spend all of this time trying to win the big game, to get to the championship and then win the championship, and then immediately after you've won the championship, you're competing for the next one. Like you're the champion for like a day, right? And then it
Right.
all sort of resets, and you're starting over again. And how you do that time after time after time after time, and you don't see that as like a Sisyphean task, right? Like you push the rock up the hill only to have it roll back down again.
Right. And then you
Uh,
got to push it up another hill.
right? Yeah, it's such a strange thing. I mean, I never played sports as a kid, so like It is what it is. I've been around people who played sports a lot, but
But
yeah, I don't know. It's
I think a lot of what it is though, because I wasn't good. I was a late bloomer physically.
mhm,
So, well, late bloomer in the sense that in third grade I started going through puberty, but I had no real control over my body until high school. Like
right.
I'm talking junior, senior year. And by then I had become so detached from athletes that I
Mhm,
wanted nothing to do with them.
right.
I think a lot of it though is, and I'm not sure if it's still the same way. I really hope it's not. But a lot of kids back in the day, that was their identity, and that's why I
Yeah.
was that was their identity. That's all they were. They had nothing else. So it was almost like your athletics and the whole just striving to be the champion. I think that a lot of ways with the insecurity of self that you go through as a youth,
Mhm.
sports kind of covers that up a little. And I think that's why a lot of these like when athletes suffer these debilitating injuries that, they're not able to go to the next level, they have so much difficulty adjusting to being a regular person because they're stunted. Like their
Yeah.
growth is stunted because they've sat on this as their identity. They're all their only method of being for so long.
Yeah.
So I think that that's what the big deal. Like for someone like us that we realize at an early age, we're not going to be these super athletes. That's just not for us. So
Right.
we find other things to hang our hat on for our identity. And it like for us, you're an educator, you're an author, you're an animal parent and you're someone's partner. Those are aspects of your identity.
Yeah.
Where me, I'm an author, I'm a parent, and these are my identities. There are some people, they're an athlete first and everything else just falls into place and there's no balance because
Yeah.
it's going to the next championship,
I
going
mean,
to
look
the
at
next
this. Look how long Tom Brady stayed retired.
yeah,
Because
2 months
there's nothing else to his life but outside of sport,
that
you know?
we know of, yeah, because
Right.
all his life has been for 20 years is this regimented thing to
Yeah.
be the best. And now granted, thank God you're seeing some athletes, they're retiring early
Yeah.
because you know what, I don't want this to be my entire identity and I don't
Yeah.
want to just serve my body up to the football gods.
Yeah.
So in this film, I guess in some ways you can look at it as sort of like the toxic masculinity is at least there on the adult side. The kids are just wanting to play. And the one thing that I love about Gordon that we don't get that stereotypical win at all cost, even that we saw in Bad News Bears,
Mhm.
where Morris Buttermaker started getting to the point where, don't you little bastards ever want to
Right.
just win? No, Gordon is just like, let's have fun. Let's
Yeah.
enjoy the game. Let's play smart. Let's not get away from who we are.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Um,
yeah. So at least
the
we didn't get that trope.
For
Thank God.
sure, yeah, which was nice. I also think, I beefed a little bit with the romantic subplot.
That was
Uh,
unnecessary.
it was unnecessary. It also came out of nowhere.
And I'm really, really, really glad that they dropped that for the second movie.
Okay.
They dropped that because basically now the Gordon Charlie relationship, that father son relationship, remains
Well, and
throughout the series,
that's okay, but he can
which I
be a
appreciate.
father figure for Charlie, without being a dad, right?
Right,
Or without being
exactly.
his mother's partner.
And I'm really, really glad they got rid of that. They did get rid of that in the second and third
Yeah,
movie.
it just like I mean, obviously they were working on setting that up, but I feel like I feel like the kiss and all of that at the end is just not earned. Like they didn't do
It's
enough.
not. This
Uh,
is still the guy that drove a car onto a pond.
yeah,
This is still the guy
it's
that was teaching your kid how to cheat and was basing on him.
yeah, I think it's a situation where you either go with the Adam Banks storyline or you go with the romantic subplot so that you can give whichever one you decide to do ample screen time to develop. And also, you could have legitimately cut 3 minutes out of the montage of those kids skating around that arena.
Right.
Like,
The
"Oh,
one-
they're having fun. Cool, man. Like, I get it. Like, I don't need to see that for the entire duration of a song."
right. But and the thing is though is that they do that in the second movie too, which is equally annoying, and it's a far less fun song too.
Yeah. So I think that that covers most of my beef with the film, which is, admittedly quite a bit. So
Yeah, but I mean, but at the end of the day, beefs aside, this is probably the less toxic of kids in sports movies that we've ever
I
covered.
agree with that.
Because Bad News Bears is a very, very toxic film. That is the original and the remake is it's pretty toxic, but
Yeah.
that's the way it's sort of built out to be.
I had some similar beefs with that film, if I remember correctly. At least in terms of his, redemption being earned. Uh,
Yeah, because it's like he was still a drunk no matter what.
yeah, and it just kinda he just, like, yelled at him one time and then thought about it and was like, "Oh, you know what? That okay."
That was dickish. I was being a
Yeah.
but
But
this film, I think of if you want to look at kids and sports films that are decent in a way that the toxicity of it is minimal, you have to look at this series for the most.
mhm,
Um, Rookie of the Year, and now granted the toxicity was there, but it was nowhere near as bad as certain others.
mhm.
And Little Big League.
What about Little Giants?
Little Giants, I think
I
the toxicity in that is it's not even with the coaches. I mean, it's there, but it's nowhere near as bad. I think that it's more a sibling rivalry.
Yeah,
It's a sibling rivalry, but it doesn't become super toxic because even when you have that typical 90s villain move
yeah.
and his coach just goes right up to the kid's dad and goes, "Yeah, that kid of yours does that again, you're both gone."
You know, this brings up actually kind of a good point.
We got to
When you're
do that
doing
movie
a
sometime.
when you're doing a kid-centric sports film,
Hmm.
you almost are you almost have to make an adult the villain because you don't wanna completely villainize kids, right? And so you can take one team of kids and make them villainous or make them antagonizers, but ultimately they're only acting that way because of their asshole coach, right?
Right,
And so it kind of waters down the blame that you can throw on children,
right.
which would feel weird if you just made kids absolute like bad
Assholes.
guys.
Well, and I think see now that we brought Little Giants into the discussion, that's a whole separate thing because the one real like
I haven't
villain,
seen that movie in so long, so I really don't know.
right? Well, I'll save my thoughts on that until we actually do the movie.
Okay.
But you're absolutely right because at the end of the day, it still falls into the what it came about in the original Karate Kid, where Mr. Miyagi tells Daniel, "There's no such thing as a bad student, only a bad teacher.
Mhm.
Teachers say, student do," and that really set the frame. That really sets the framework for these kid centric films. Is that the kids are nothing but the henchmen to the main baddie. The kids are like the Darth Vader and the coach is Palpatine,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. And yeah, and I mean that's what you get, but the thing is there's always that one kid that enjoys being the villain.
Mhm.
And you got that in that one kid that hurt Adam Banks in the championship game, right?
Yeah.
He had like no qualms. He had no zero fucks given by that kid.
Yeah.
What did you do? My job.
Yeah.
And I mean,
But
granted,
he's still able but we're still able to see him just as a mouthpiece of the coach, right?
right? He's still just doing what the coach told him to do.
Right.
Because I'm pretty sure that
Which is what happens with Johnny, right, in The Karate Kid.
right, exactly.
So
And
they're not
Mike
without
Barnes in Karate Kid 3. Although
so they're
Mike
not
Barnes
out
enjoyed it.
they're not beyond redemption as children whenever they're told to do something by an adult and they go do that thing.
Right. Yeah, because you look at the rest of the Mighty Ducks films. Like look at the second movie. Um those kids from the Iceland team, they're playing hard-nosed hockey because that's the way they were coached. But then when the coach does start to be a bit of a dick at the end, you lost this for me. Nah, you lost it for yourself. Let's go be good sportsmen.
Mhm.
once again, it's the exact
Yeah.
same thing. I think though that the long and the short of kid-centric sports films, and you're absolutely right, is that the coach is always the main villain because we don't want to see kids be the bad guys. But also at the same token, if you have a coach that's a decent person, they're not going to let their kids be monsters.
Right.
They're just
Which
not.
is why it's so difficult to write these adult characters as believable villains,
Right.
because rational adult people don't act like that. That's not to say
Right.
that those
Well,
people don't exist
I think the only
in
kid
Little League.
villain, I think the only kid villain that's actually a villain is the one racist linebacker from Gridiron Gang.
Mm,
You've seen that, right? With The Rock as the coach of
I think so. That one's been
basically
a minute for me too.
yeah, basically they played in this Christian high school football league, and there was like the championship team had this middle linebacker that was always antagonizing the running back of
Mhm.
the Rock's team, and he dropped N bombs on the kid
Oh,
during a game. And it's like, I'm pretty sure that if your coach heard you say that, he would have a problem with you.
yeah.
Because even his teammates were like, dude, you're taking it a little far now. Your white hood is showing.
Right?
But
Yeah.
no, I think you're absolutely right. Rational adults, as soon as they see a kid on their team started taking it too far, they're going to sit them down, and they're going to sit down with the kid and the kid's parents and say, look, man, you need to get your kid under control.
Yeah.
I would like to think that. I would love to think that.
Yeah,
Like
for
I
sure.
think that's also why I don't ever want to coach kids, because A, you're going to be dealing with whatever attitude the kid has from their own personality, plus what is enabled by the parents. And then
Plus
you
the
got to deal with
parents'
the
attitude.
parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean, they're starting. I saw somewhere on Twitter, they had to put a sign up on a baseball diamond that says, remember, we're here for the kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean,
adults act like adults.
I dated a woman who had children who were both in sports,
Mhm.
and shout out if she finds this and listens. I loved every minute of it, I promise. It uh, uh, and I enjoyed the okay. Anyway, it's the sports is what I'm talking about. I didn't
Yeah, you
necessarily love
enjoyed the
sitting there.
aspect of the sports, yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I didn't love sitting at the ball field all day on a Saturday, watching, to be fair,
to be fair.
not very technically proficient athletes. They were children, and they double dribbled frequently, when they
Rufus,
played
throw the
basketball.
ball to the first baseman, not to your
Uh,
dad.
they almost never hit home runs.
Of course not.
They, et cetera, et cetera. But being at the park, you
They committed
see
errors
how
because they were afraid of the ball.
right. You see these kids. I will tell you this, and this is a story that it will be better on YouTube if you're listening.
Okay.
But the uh, her daughter played basketball, and the very first year she ever played,
Mhm.
she was posted up like in the right spot, right?
Right.
And she was taller than almost everyone else on her team. And this
Uh,
little girl is just like swamped by defenders, right? She's got the ball, swamped. Like three girls are surrounding this chick, and she's just like trying to fend them off. And she finds the tall girl, right? She
yeah.
sees her. They make eye contact, and this chick goes,
She said, I don't want that smoke.
she's like, I don't want it.
That's messed
It
up.
was so funny because it was such a pure interaction. She's like looking for anywhere to dump the ball off. She sees her and she's just like,
Nah,
no, don't do
nope,
it.
I
Don't
don't
do
want
it.
it. I don't want it.
It was
that's,
so
so,
funny. But
that's so messed up, but I love it. That is so great. That is so great.
but I mean that was when Little League was a lot of fun to watch, right?
Yeah,
But
I'm kind of glad that my son isn't super into sports,
yeah.
because where he's at and I'm where I'm at, it's like I seriously would not want to deal with that. Although I will say this though, man, my ex, she would stand up because you deal with, because a lot of the times you hear these horror stories about Pee Wee sports and youth sports as a whole,
Mhm.
and he's parent and South Park even did a parody of it. You know what I mean? Where it's to the point
Yeah.
that the kids don't even want to play the game anymore
That is
because
such
of
a
the
good
parents.
episode of South Park.
It really is, because it's funny, but it also it's given a message, and that's a lot of what South Park does. They
Yeah.
make you think about said message while making you laugh.
I thought this was America. Like
Yeah,
Randy trying to pick a fight with everybody, like
right.
at every field. Man, that is so true though, dude. Like these
Mhm.
parents would get so into these games, and I'm just like, bro, can we like go home? It's so hot out here.
Yeah, not to
uh
mention the fact that, look, man, your kid is having a good time. Why isn't that enough for you?
yeah, that should be the thing, right? But let's maybe
Let's talk,
let's
yeah, let's put a bow on it. Talk to bartender Smiley, and let's give our ratings, because
we should say before we wrap up
before
that
we wrap, yeah.
the film was made on a $14 million budget and it grossed 50.8 million at the box office, which is why it got a sequel.
Mhm.
Uh,
A far
and
superior film, one of the few times that the sequel is better than the
right,
original.
yeah, it is sitting right now at a whopping 21% on the tomato meter with only 29 reviews and a 65% audience score from 250,000 people with rose-colored glasses on. So uh, let's get bartender Smiley in the mix. If I can find the window again, there we go. And then we'll be back with our uh, final thoughts.
All right. That's good.
The Plotaholics rating system for the movies is a pretty simple system. Basically, they rate movies based on how many shots it takes to get through them. So if you got a good movie and you get through it all the way sober, then it takes 0 shots to get through the movie. And then if you got a really bad movie, then it could take up to 5 shots to get through the whole thing. I think you can try to figure out the middle part yourself. So, what can I get you?
All right. Let's see here. Brian, what do you think?
This is a fun film. It's pretty. I mean, it's also kind of bland for the time. You know, it early '90s. This is what you're getting. You know, but all in all, it was fun. It's the weakest, I think, of the 3 films. I think that if I'm ranking these in order, I go 2, then 3, then 1. But you got to start somewhere. Um, Not without its problems, but it's still a pretty fun film. I'm going to give this a 2-shot rating, just for the fact that there are a lot of things that were very, very problematic. You're not going to have a dude I don't think you're going to have a dude with a DUI coaching Pee Wee hockey, unless the fact that since he's a lawyer and they feel that he's going to be safe to have around kids, it'll be okay. Um, the Oreo line, that line didn't make me happy. Each time I heard it, sort of makes me roll my eyes. And the redistricting lines, that was just so nonsensical, but it was what it was. So it's a 2-shot rating. It's a fun film. I'd say watch it with your kids, and but definitely explain to your kids, if you're of Caucasian age, if you're non-African American, explain to your kids why that line isn't a good one to utter, and why it could get your kids ass kicked.
So this is just for the sake of um, argument. I looked up issues with like criminal records and coaching just to see, right?
Mhm.
First, I was searching if you were charged with a DUI, or I guess actually convicted, would your court ordered community service, could it possibly include coaching a rec team or little league team? And I don't think so. This comes from the Little League University, littleleague.org.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. So don't let this happen. Approving a volunteer with a criminal record. So a Little League International headquarters and in our regional offices, calls and emails come in all year long about situations that are happening at one of our 7,000 local leagues. Many of these calls and emails inform us of some very positive initiatives. However, there are some negative things as well. Let's see. Local league officials must carefully review every volunteer application. Background checks are required for all volunteers with regular service, and or repetitive access to children. Any conviction, guilty plea, or no contest plea for crime against a minor or minors automatically disqualifies a person from participation in the league. Other crimes that do not involve children will not restrict a person from volunteering in a local league, but it is in the best interest of the league to recognize and understand the charges against an individual when considering their application and position within the league. The board has final approval on all nominations and appointments. Be aware that each state may have specific laws and requirements governing participation in volunteer organizations. If a local league votes to appoint a person with a criminal record to a position within the league, the board of directors must be accountable to its constituents if the appointment is called into question. This situation is an example of how an applying volunteer can be forthcoming and transparent with this sort of information. If such an incident is brought to the league's attention prior to the background check, a discussion amongst the board members may have provided a greater understanding and impacted the opinion of the board. So it sounds like as long as your DUI did not also include like a child endangerment charge,
Okay.
you could potentially get approval. But it doesn't seem like something that the court would mandate, right?
Okay.
Let's see. Upon completing the volunteer application and conducting the required background check necessary for any league volunteer with regular service and or repetitive access to children, the league discovers that John has a conviction for driving under the influence of alcohol and reckless driving. The crime is not against a minor, which would be an automatic disqualifying offense. However, the new league president, following consultation with the board of directors, decides to appoint other candidates to fill the position. So it seems like something that could be used to deter a right, but it's not necessarily against the rules. And that, of course, is just for baseball, like little league baseball.
Okay.
But I feel like there are probably similar rules across the board.
So basically, then they just don't care. The league doesn't care thing 1, 2, or 3 about District 5.
Yeah, that's it. That's all it is.
They just don't care.
Yeah. In fact, that judge probably has a kid on a different team and is trying to tank District 5 by assigning them this DUI guy.
Fair enough. All right. I mean, hey, that works. But
little does he know, he's done put freaking Gor-Bo over there, and Gor-Bo is like the greatest thing on skates.
Yeah, I mean, he's
except when it's time to clutch up.
Right. Yeah. Gor-Bo.
I want a scene where Gor-Bo so the game's on the line, right? The Mighty Ducks, they're in a tied situation. If they make this shot, then they win it all. And I want Gor-Bo to suit up and put himself on the ice as an adult and take the shot. And I want him to make the shot, but I want them to get disqualified because he's an adult.
You know what? Why aren't you and I out in Hollywood?
He's just he rips his jersey off and like just pounds another beer and spikes it on the ice.
Now, Gordon, you win. You don't spike it. F you, man. Mr. Ducksworth.
As for my rating, I think I give it a 3. I have noted many issues that I had with just the overall story of the film. Also, I am not an ignorant man. I know that this is a film made for children, but I think that Disney and all of these studios have gotten better in the last 20 years or so of making movies for children that can also hold up to adults, to the adults that are watching them. With the kids. And this one, to me, there were just a couple of plot points that felt shoehorned in. And I think that removing one of them, specifically the romantic subplot or the Adam Banks bit, taking one of those out and then focusing more on the other would have given them the space to justify its inclusion. I don't think that you need either one of them really. And you definitely don't need both.
Yeah. And so I think, although I'll tell you the truth, with that being said, if you have to keep wanting drop the other, I would definitely drop the romance one.
I agree.
Let the Adam Banks one stay in there, because now it's teaching kids a lesson that, look, you can't just shirk the rules because it helps you win, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And not only that, but the Adam Banks storyline already has more work done on it.
Exactly.
Whereas the romantic subplot really just feels like they just
came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
At least with the Adam Banks aspect of it, it's, he's already been proven to be kind of a douche He's been a douche like the whole movie. And then now he's got to join this team. So he's eating crow. And then he's like, look, man, I just want to play hockey. I don't care whose team I'm on.
Yeah.
I just want to play. So yeah,
Yeah, I
at
dig
least
it.
the Adam Banks one is already there. It's already sort of it's already a part of it. It's just another part of the larger story. And yeah, the romantic subplot just completely unnecessary. And this is a kids movie. If it was a made for adults movie, then yeah, sure. If you want to have Gor-Bo and Mama Conway bang it out in a strip club, cool. You want him to do some coke off her spinal cord, gravy. But it has no place in a kids movie.
Um, the so Gor-Bo leaves his job at the law
No, he
firm.
got fired. Yo, he
Well,
quit
yeah, but
the job.
he accepts his
That was
dismissal
something
because
else. That was something else that I wanted to bring up to you. Number one, there's no way it can be leaked. Like, are you seriously going to fire one of your best defense attorneys
that's so ridiculous.
over Pee
Over
Wee
Pee
Hockey?
Wee?
Over Pee Wee Hockey. And then are you going to quit? I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not going to quit my job. I'm not going to be unemployed over a Pee Wee Hockey thing. Because now, granted, if you're a good lawyer, you're going to have another job. That's fine. And you can even open up your own law. You can practice privately.
Yeah.
Fine. But there's no way in hell, like, that's a wrongful term. Why are you going to fire a defense attorney over that? Dude, don't you realize that he can take your ass to court over wrongful termination? Oh, because and then as soon as it goes to court, the judge looks at it and goes, so let me get this straight. You're firing an attorney over some shady ass kids hockey.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
he's won. He wins. You don't even get to
Yeah.
bring up anything else. He won.
I was going to point out that and when he does get fired or he walks away and he decides to hinge it all on a tryout for minor league hockey.
Yeah.
So in Minnesota, Brian, the salary range for a criminal defense lawyer is between $80,000 and $108,000. The American Hockey League, which is a minor league in hockey, players can in 2014 and 15 would make let's see, the minimum season compensation is, let's see, for players in the AHL on a AHL standard players contract, the minimum season compensation was $42,000 in the US for 14 and 15. Players on loan to the AHL from lesser leagues receive the minimum compensation of $33,000. Now, that is to say that there are lesser leagues, which is probably what he's going to get stuck with, because AHL is kind of like the entry point to the NHL.
Well, in the second movie, they basically said that he was on track of getting called up to the NHL until he got injured. So I'm thinking that he's going to be making
AHL.
He's going to be in the AHL or whatever.
Yeah, so good for him, because he only took like a 50% pay cut.
Yeah, good for you, Gordon. All right. Good thing
freaking Gor-Bo did it again.
Yeah. Oh man, I'll tell you one thing right now. You want to talk about business sense? You look at Gor-Bo.
Yeah. Freaking Gor-Bo for
yeah,
sure.
There's no way
he's gonna start running
over this.
late night ads. He's like, have you lost your job recently? Do you need help figuring it all out? Well, you call Gor-Bo.
Gor-busy.
Gor-busy.
Yeah,
Brian,
no
next week we are going to be discussing Caddyshack as the final film of our 2022 sports block.
Don't nobody worry about me. Come on, give me a bite. I'll tell you one thing. This is a movie that I'm very curious, because I've heard all my life, oh, this movie is such a huge deal, blah, blah. You know, another movie that got really, really hyped up for me when I was young was, what was it called again? Animal House. And I watched it and I was like, is this it? Is this it? So I'm very
I feel like
curious
we'll have a similar experience
about this. I'm very curious to see how I feel about this. And then the week after that, we're going back to we're going to be giving some love to John Singleton, the writer, director of Boys in the Hood. He passed away when we first began this endeavor, and we decided to do a tribute episode to John Singleton. Last year, we kind of got a little bit away from it because it was our anniversary, I believe it was.
Yeah,
so
the 100th episode or something.
Yeah, the 100th episode.
Interrupted it.
Yeah, so this year we're going to go back to our roots and review a John Singleton film. This year it's going to be Higher Learning. So check back with us, not next week, but the week after. And we'll also, I think starting next week, we're going to be recording the show live via Twitch, right?
I think we're going to give that a go. Yeah, I think we're going to give it a go. If we can get a couple of other pieces in place between now and then, we will be going live on Twitch. And the way that I sort of see that playing out is we'll be hanging out on Twitch for longer than it takes to record the show. And because we'll like do a little bit of our like just kind of like shooting the shit or whatever, and then we'll record,
allow people the opportunity to sort of see, get a little bit in and get some insight, and we could do little something like that.
Yeah, so definitely feel free to follow the Plotaholics on Twitch. It's just twitch.tv/Plotaholics. Also, youtube.com/theplotaholics for all your YouTube needs. You can catch the video feed over there if you're not watching it right now. Make sure that you're liking and subscribing everywhere that you want to or that you're able to get up to date or stay up to date on your Plotaholics content. We are trying to deliver the most and the best. We're really tapping into our inner Gor-Bo.
Pretty much, because who doesn't want to be Gor-Bo? Who doesn't?
Indeed.
Well, probably not, even though Gor-Bo, aka Emilio Esteves, was married to Paula Abdul for a little bit.
I mean, if I could have that era Gor-Bo, then sure.
Yeah, I'm all on board for that.
But at any rate, I'm going to go now and edit this, even though I was hoping to not have to do that today. But an hour 45 feels a little long.
Yeah.
So,
well, you figure you can take about 10 minutes off when we got into some of our other rants.
Yeah, we will. You can find those in the director's cut. But anyway, we will see you guys next week.
Take care, guys.
Take a trip with us to Nilbog. Just promise not to drink the goo.
Oh my God!
If you get sucked into the Matrix, we will sing the phone for you.
Do you believe in fate?
But every movie has a plot hole, and every hole gets filled somehow. Whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club of two. We're the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.